Hey everyone, and welcome to this video on working with eclipse energy. I wanted to make this video because we have the supermoon, blood moon eclipse coming up in Leo on the 20th, but I wanted to kind of zoom out a little bit from this specific eclipse because there's a lot of conversation about it. It's somewhat rare as far as eclipses go because it is a supermoon eclipse, and we won't have another one until 2021. So there is quite a lot of conversation about this happening already. And I just wanted to kind of add in a little bit of my own sort of perspective on working with eclipses and the energy of eclipses. They have always fascinated me to a very extreme degree. And actually, one of my novels that I have not published was based on the idea of all of the metaphysical energies that kind of happen when we are experiencing either a solar or a lunar eclipse on Earth. And one of the things that always really drew me to the subject of eclipses, which caused me to write a whole novel based on like the themes of the eclipse energy, was just the different unexplainable occurrences that happen during eclipses. So one of the things that I have read about is that during an eclipse, if you are working with a pendulum, or if you have a pendulum that is swinging, for example, on your desk, the eclipse will actually, like at the moment when the eclipse goes exact, and of course it depends on where you are on the Earth, but when the eclipse goes sort of more exact, there's this gravitational pull between the moon, the Earth, and the sun, where that alignment kind of happens that will actually cause pendulums to change their swing. There's been different things that people have looked at. So during an eclipse, and to a certain extent during supermoons and full moons where the moon is at its closest point to the Earth, we actually weigh a little bit less because the moon's gravitational pull on the Earth is affecting our weight. So it's affecting the gravitational pull, basically. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of ways that eclipses, I feel, are a really good representation of how astrological bodies are actually really genuinely affecting us, and we can really get a very real scientific sense of how these bodies, these astrological bodies, are affecting us on Earth in practical ways. And that sort of, obviously is interesting to someone like me who I've observed the different metaphysical energies, or like you could call it like the intuitive or the spiritual side of astrology, and connecting the dots between what's going on above and how that is, also going on below. So that's a little bit of my background and my interest in eclipses, and some of the things that I've read about, just like I said, years and years ago, that has caused me to be really drawn to eclipses. Now, I want to talk about specifically the concept of working with eclipse energy from a metaphysical perspective, from a magical perspective. So I am someone who observes different astrological alignments and different things that are going on in relation to my personal chart, and I will plan any rituals or any magic that I'm going to be doing around like positive dates. And as much as I can, I don't take it to an extreme, but as much as I can, I will try and organize different events in my life so that I'm taking action when, for example, there are auspicious dates based on my astrology. So if my Venus is empowered, for example, I will try and do more social things, or I'll try and kind of organize things that will be beneficial for me to get the word out about something that I'm working on, or etc., when my Venus is empowered. So there's different ways that you can approach doing this, and I'm not an expert in astrology or in metaphysics. I am just a solo practitioner trying to find what works for me. So I'm just going to share with you guys some of my personal little tips and tricks for working with eclipse magic, and a little bit more about like the concept and what's kind of out there in the literature about eclipse magic. And one of the things that I want to say first is that there's a belief in kind of Taoist metaphysics that an eclipse will magnify actions that you take. So actions taken within a few days, or specifically like right around the time that the eclipse is occurring. If you take a positive action, that action will, like the energy or the ripples from it are amplified by 10,000. And if you take a negative action, it's the same thing. The negative ripples or the ripples of energy that are created by that action are going to be amplified by 10,000. So there's this concept that energy is amplified basically during an eclipse, and there's a lot of different literature about this from different belief systems all around the world. But there's also this really old idea that pregnant women should not go outside under an eclipse, either solar or lunar, that if you're pregnant you don't want to go out under the eclipse. So that's kind of a very old-fashioned belief, but it was a common thought among people of the past that maybe if you're extremely sensitive or if you are in a vulnerable state physically in any way, that maybe being out under an eclipse is not the right thing for you. And I think this is really interesting because across the board, throughout history, we see this concept of eclipses being a little bit of a risky thing, or maybe even to a certain extent malefic. There's something kind of challenging, there's something unpredictable, there's something that you can't really explain or kind of manifest that will produce an expected result. There's like a limitation there when it comes to eclipses and the energy that they exert on our planet. So there's this long-standing belief that caution and sort of being inside and not trying to do a ritual, not trying to do a magical rite is probably better. However, there is some literature that says that if you are a trained metaphysician and you know how to work with these energies, then maybe an eclipse could be a really good opportunity for you to shake something up in your life, like something that maybe has been stagnant or something that's maybe been stuck in your life. An eclipse, if you're using that energy intentionally, for example, conducting a little ritual for yourself during the time of the eclipse to release yourself from some kind of bondage or some kind of oppression or something that you maybe have been getting yourself stuck into. If you have an awareness and you're comfortable with working with metaphysical energy, then it's kind of known that that can be a really powerful time for liberation. But again, there's all this caution stirred into it and all this sense of don't try and do too much. Be careful what you wish for during an eclipse. There's that old adage of being careful what you wish for, because you just might get it, and you might get it in a very unpredictable way, or you might get it in a way that is jarring and that you realize you didn't necessarily want it to be that way, but it comes in full force. A basic kind of universal thing that is recommended during eclipses is not to make overly impulsive decisions right around the time of an eclipse. So this also goes for if there's someone in your life who you are maybe wanting to patch things up with, like if you had a difficult conflict with a person in your life, or you really want to clear the air and you want to resolve something in an interpersonal relationship, it's generally not recommended to do so during the eclipse. Maybe wait a couple weeks or a few weeks after the eclipse, especially with a lunar eclipse, because the solar happens before the lunar. So you want to wait till basically a few weeks after both eclipses have happened and the energy is getting settled, because during the time of an eclipse the energy is a lot more intense. And I've even been feeling this recently as well myself with just the energies. There's a sense of intensity about almost everything that's going on right now. And even when I just went out to the beach yesterday, the tide was so much higher than I've ever seen it. And you could feel it. You could feel that there's something powerful kind of brewing astrologically, and that you can actually see the very real implications of that as you near a supermoon eclipse. The tides are getting stronger and higher, and the reactions that people have. I mean, be careful about what you say to others at this time, because your words can be taken and misconstrued or misunderstood. So you want to just be really conscious about how you're communicating and bringing light, bringing positivity, keeping an optimistic attitude as well is super important, because this is kind of the proverbial pot being stirred so that new manifestations can come in. But the trick is to kind of remain anchored to yourself throughout the intensity and the ups and downs of the actual eclipse season, and then writing that out and setting clear intentions for yourself about what you really want to like nourish within yourself. So that kind of brings me to the essential point of how I like to work with eclipses. Given that I have personally felt so many times in my life just the intensity and the strange events that can happen around eclipses. I've had really unexpected things happen in my life around eclipses in the past, and really ungrounded things honestly happen in my life around eclipses in the past. So I'm quite conservative in how I like to work with an eclipse energy, especially one that can be stronger. For example, a supermoon lunar eclipse is going to be a stronger energy just because of the closeness of the moon. So the way that I typically work with eclipses is very simple. If I am going to do anything at all during the eclipse for myself, I will burn just a simple kind of white ritual candle. This one is loaded with chamomile and some nice smelling herbs that are more gentle, docile, soothing, and grounding. And I like to work with the white one, or maybe even like a white and a dark one, like a white and black. Something to have kind of some balance, or something to have some, it's like the yin and yang is both represented. And if I'm going to use candles for a candle magic ritual, candle magic is very, very simple. I will just anoint the candles with an anointing oil that is associated with whatever I'm working on at that time in my life. But typically, and here's the main kicker, I typically don't ask for big manifestations around an eclipse, because again, there's that energy of being careful what you wish for and not trying to kind of go too far with an energy that's already kind of unpredictable. It's already kind of untamed. So rather, what I like to do is to use some of that eclipse energy to harness my own inner wisdom. So the magic, or like the rituals that I typically will do for myself during an eclipse, if I am at all, which a lot of times I don't even, but if I am, I will recite something like the Serenity Prayer, which I find recitations to be incredibly useful during ritual, because it just keeps me focused. It keeps my mind clean and clear of distracting thoughts, and it also really aligns me with whatever purpose I have with the ritual. So my recitations will always be very much related to whatever I'm working on, and I will write them myself, or I will use kind of prayers from history or quotes from history, things that I feel have a very sacred flavor. When I speak them out loud, I can feel that energy of sacredness kind of flowing through me, especially after I've recited it many, many times. I start to get into an altered state of consciousness. So during an eclipse season, and if I'm going to plan a ritual, I will typically use something like the Serenity Prayer, which, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's God, or you can say it to the universe or your higher self, whatever you want to use, whatever you want to believe in, but you can say, God, grant me the courage to change the things I can change. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I love the Serenity Prayer. I use it a lot because even just the length of it, I feel has enough words that I actually have to kind of focus on what's coming next. It's not so short that it kind of becomes meaningless for me. It's a kind of a rolling prayer. And I feel like as I focus on the words of the Serenity Prayer, I really assume the wisdom that I'm asking for. Like, I really start to feel that I do have the courage to change the things I can change, and that I do, or at least I will, in the near future, possess the serenity to accept whatever it is that I cannot change about my life. And I feel personally that this approach to working with eclipse energy is a little bit safer because, like I said, I'm not an expert metaphysician. I'm not an expert astrologer. I'm learning all of these things, and I'm in the process of discovering what I really believe and what really works for me. And when I feel something so real as an eclipse, and I feel the energy being very intense as a result of that eclipse, creating unexpected events in my life, that's very real to me. I don't want to mess around with that. I don't want to take too many steps in a direction that I'm not sure where it's going to lead me. So I would rather focus whatever energy that I can pick up from the eclipse on simply nourishing myself and helping myself to gain access to my own higher wisdom. Because when I have access to my own higher wisdom and I do understand the difference between the things I can take action on and the things I just can't, that's really what gives me the key to my own empowerment, because I personally believe that this way of working with not only eclipses, but with ritual and magic in general, it's a way of kind of helping me put the power back in my own hands. And not kind of asking for something outside of myself. So I feel like when I'm more keyed into really being receptive to the opportunities that are presenting themselves to me, and I'm really putting energy into things that will actually give me some kind of meaningful result, like the effort that I'm expending is under correct knowledge, basically, that is magic to me. I don't feel like I need to manifest, a check for $10,000 on a specific date based on a ritual. Like, that is an exciting thing when things like that have happened in my life. Not exactly that, of course, but different things that you ask for can come to you through ritual. But in my personal experience, rituals that are aimed at helping you to assess your reality in the most accurate terms are, in my experience, the most powerful and the most kind of eye-opening, because you start to actually live the magic instead of just receiving it, which receiving it is great too, but you live it and you are aware of it within yourself. So that is my approach to working with eclipse energy. I hope this video has been helpful to you guys. I do have a couple of things that I wanted to share. First of all, if you have been looking at my jewelry on this channel and asking me in the comments about where I get my pendants and where I get my necklaces, I will be putting the link below to my dear friend Erin Murphy's shop on Etsy. She makes amazing pendants, and she made this one. She made the Chrysocolla one that I wore in the January reading. So that's where you can get her stuff, and it's amazing. It's totally affordable. It's handmade, and she's just a really awesome person. So I really wanted to kind of rep her shop and share with you guys where you can get more jewelry if you've been wondering where I get mine. And the second announcement is that we are doing the Tarot Self-Therapy course again starting February 19th. So if you're interested in taking Tarot Self-Therapy with me, we are going to be going over so many different aspects of the tarot cards. We go through every single card in the deck, how to connect the cards intuitively in a reading. We cover creating sacred space, and we get you practicing with the cards in a way that specifically will be therapeutic for you and will give you a way to reflect on your own life's challenges, using the tarot cards to help you as a guiding post to improve different aspects of your life and to genuinely heal psychologically from aspects of your past that you've been hanging on to. So it's really beautiful. We have rituals for release work and for manifestation. And it's basically a 6-week course that takes you through very in-depth of, the different technical, traditional meanings of the cards, also how to read them intuitively, and how to read them for positivity, how to gain access to a tarot practice for yourself that will actually make you feel more empowered, as opposed to, when you get a reading that has a lot of reversals or a lot of difficult cards and you end up feeling disempowered. We're gonna turn the whole table on that and really get into how can you give an empowering reading to yourself. No matter what cards come up on the table, you're becoming aligned internally with the highest intention, the highest positive intention of every card that comes up on your table. So I will put the information for the Tarot Self-Therapy course below the video if you're interested in taking it with me. I would love to work with you. You have access to me throughout the entire course, and we also have a private Facebook group where we can share spreads and chat about our readings and ask different questions. Okay guys, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Take care, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye!